Hello everyone, welcome back to a little series where me and my good friend P.3 here guide you through the first steps in this game of Magic the Gathering. Today's episode, we will learn about the type of spells you can cast in the game. Thank you very much, P.3, being part of the introduction as always. Instants and sorceries. They are both one-time effects. Once you cast an instant or sorcery, it does what it says in the text box, and afterwards it goes to the graveyard. Every other card type are called permanents, because once you play them, they will stay in the game up until they get destroyed. Enchantments and artifacts are two sides of the same coin. They both have persistent effects while in play, but also enchantments purely represent magical occurrences. Artifacts are more tied to the physical objects. Both can have ongoing effects or activated abilities. Enchantments comes in different forms. As you can see here, there are different ones. Some of them have subtypes and some of them doesn't. Enchantments without subtypes normally are used to be called global enchantments, which means that they affect the whole battlefield at the same time. If your enchantment is something called an aura subtype, they have to be attached to another permanent and only have an effect on that permanent. Auras also stay on that permanent once they cast. There's one more thing we need to talk about, namely sagas. Sagas meant to represent a chain of events. As the story of the saga progresses, with each turn, imagine it like your first time reading. Once you move throughout chapters, the story goes forward, and once you read all of them, you put the book down and aside until next time. Artifacts are also similar to enchantments. Wherever they have a subtype, that is a specific type of artifact. Equipments, for example, are the artifact equivalent of auras. You have to put them on a creature. This is equipping. Whoever carries the equipment will get to use its abilities. The big difference between auras and equipments are that, just like in real life, once you find an equipment lying on the field, for example a stick or a dagger, then you can pick it up and use it as much as you like, and afterwards you can get rid of it or give it to somebody else. Therefore, equipments can move between creatures at your own leisure. The other difference between auras and equipments are that equipments can only be moved into your own creatures, the ones you control, while auras can be cast on any permanent they can target. While we are also here, let's talk about the super type of the card, legendary, as illustrated here in a mythical code. The legendary rule, in broad strokes, is pretty simple. The player can only control one legendary permanent with a specific name at the same time. Only one. In the unlikely case you end up with more than one in the play, then you have to choose one which you keep in play, and the rest of them you have to sacrifice to put it into the graveyard. Creatures are a bit more complicated and they have many different things we have to explain about them. So stay tuned for the next video where we will go through every little detail. Just have them here as an example. We are running out of time. There's a couple of more things I would like to touch on before we finish this video. Namely, it's a Mordor Trebuchet. As you can see, it's an artifact creature, which means that it's both an artifact and a creature. Any card which affects artifacts will affect this card, and any card which affects creatures will affect this card. Just like the multicolored spells we explained, where they both will be the same thing at the same time. And lastly, there is another type of permanent we would like to touch on while we are on the topic of permanents, and these are called tokens. Tokens are considered permanents because they stay in the field until they get destroyed, but they are not cards because they're not part of your deck. Tokens are always created by other cards. For example, orc armies can be created with many different cards. March of the Blackgate is one of them. Treasure tokens can be created by many different cards. Oath of the Grey Host is one of them. Tokens do not exist outside of the game. So if they leave the field, then they will disappear completely from the game. They don't stay in the graveyard. They don't go back to, if they go back to your hand, they don't stay in your hand. They only exist in play. That's the big difference then between them and cards. That's about it for today's lesson, where we talked about the different types of spells you can cast. And stay tuned for the next one, where we will go a bit deeper on the creatures. As always, if you think we left something out or something is not 100% clear, please let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!